Should you expect staff shakeups for Oregon after the season they're having? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to take place where you think it might? Probably not. So, Matt Prame of 24/7 Sports had the first tweet that I saw yesterday saying that Rashad Samples, Oregon's newly minted running backs coach from this season, as in this is his first year in Eugene, is reportedly a candidate, and a serious one, to be the head coach at Sam Houston. So I'll talk about that in just a moment. But the two guys that are at the top of everyone's minds when it comes to staff changes are Will Stein, Tosh Lupoi, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. There are plenty of job openings out there. There have been plenty. I have not seen either one of those guys' names tied to either one. Doesn't mean it can't happen either this cycle or next cycle or the cycle after that. It's an incredibly unpredictable world out there. But when you have the sort of season that Oregon is having, and you are running the sort of program that Dan Lanning has developed in Eugene in a pretty short amount of time, you're going to attract plenty of attention. Just a fact of the matter, Alabama's assistants and coordinators got poached all the time. But right now, it doesn't feel like there is a pressing urgency for Will Stein to find a head coaching opportunity. And I've never gotten the sense throughout his entire career that Tosh Lupoi wants to be a head coach. There's never been a strong indication that he wants to be a head coach. And some guys are okay being coordinators. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Gary Campbell was Oregon's running backs coach for, I think, over 30 years. Spanned several coaching staffs. He was just there. Probably had offers or interest, got phone calls or emails to be an offensive coordinator. Some guys are okay. I like my job. I got this responsibility. My life is here. I got a 6-figure salary. It's all good. Some guys are okay with that. Hard to blame them. And by the way, the offensive defensive coordinators at Oregon, they're making more than a 6-figure salary. So with regards to Rashad Samples, the other name that you will hear get tossed out, and I talked about at one point on the show in the last few weeks, is Chris Hampton. So Hampton was the defensive coordinator at Tulane, came to Oregon ahead of last season, and is in the process of wrapping up, hopefully with 3 more wins, his second season with the Ducks as the co-defensive coordinator. That to me is another name that I think will move on from Oregon before either of the coordinators do, unless Will Stein finds a head coaching opportunity this offseason. But for now, those guys are not generating a ton of buzz, but Rashad Samples very much is. So he's seen as one of the favorites for the Sam Houston job. And I got a question from somebody about, why would you go to Sam Houston when you're at Oregon? Oregon's a better school. Oregon's a bigger brand. Oregon can offer all this, that, and the other thing. The answer is, if you have desires to be a head coach, you're not going to get that at Oregon, right? Do you anticipate the Oregon job coming open soon? I know the Bears need a head coach, and I'm super worried about Dan Lanning taking that job. Gosh, what a bunch of ridiculousness. But guys that come through Oregon on the coaching staff side of things, most of them are mercenaries. This doesn't mean they dislike Oregon. Does Kenny Dillingham feel like he dislikes Oregon? No, he went to Arizona State. How's he doing, by the way? Quite well. He's doing quite well. And by the way, I love Dilly. Dilly. I've been rooting for that guy ever since he got there. He cares about the place. He is incredibly passionate. He's a darn good coach. He does it the right way. He is a great guy across the board. He's a total stud. He was at Oregon for 1 year. And when he went to Arizona State and was in the middle of that 3-9 season, bet you could have looked at him and said, "Oh, see, you should have stuck it out at Oregon. Oregon's playing in the Pac-12 championship game." You think Kenny Dillingham's got any regrets about going down to Arizona State? That's a place that's been dubbed a sleeping giant for a long time. Sam Houston plays in Conference USA. That's a significant step down in competition. So why would Samples make that move? Well, number one, he's got ties to the state of Texas, which is where Sam Houston is, because his dad is the coach at Duncanville. Remember, that was the connection with the tinfoil hats we were all wearing when DeCorian Moore was getting recruited to Oregon. And heck, that might have been a significant part of it. We'll never know 100% for sure. It's reasonable to infer there was a contact or a phone call made at some point in time. But if you have the opportunity to go prove yourself as the head coach, if your goal in the long run, if you're Rashad Samples, is to be a head coach of the Power 4 ranks, being a head coach in Conference USA is a much better way to get there than being the running backs coach for Oregon. And by the way, you know who just went from Conference USA to the Power 4 ranks, Rich Rodriguez, Jacksonville State to West Virginia. So when you get the opportunity, I understand where you come from, Oregon fans, but remember, these coaches, they can become Oregon fans, of course, and they are very much invested in Oregon's success while they are on campus. Most of them are not growing up diehard Oregon fans like Tez Johnson. Most of them see Oregon as a great place, as a great opportunity, but don't have that personal connection to where, oh, they'd never leave. You'd never leave if you got there. If I got a job with Oregon, I'd probably never leave. I mean, heck, I've got this show. I don't think I'm ever going to leave. I mean, I love this stuff. So the opportunity to be a head coach is better for him professionally than being a running backs coach at Oregon. So I got that question. I wanted to explain that thought. But I also got a question from Mark. And again, YouTube comments, Twitter, or if you want priority access and a bunch of other perks, go become a Locked On Ducks insider. Link in the description below. You can get a free 14-day trial. Then it's just $5 a month. So Mark sent in this question. Curious what your thoughts are on this. With an offense and defense that have both been clicking at times and looked very elite this season, do you think there's a risk we could lose Stein or Lupoi to a head coaching position? Sure seems like that time of year when rumors would start circulating, and I guess I'm just surprised I haven't heard anything like that. Thanks again for the great coverage, and as always, go Ducks. Yes, indeed, go Ducks. So going back to these two guys, Stein is far more likely to be a head coach one day than Tosh Lupoi. Stein is a lot younger. Stein is seen as an up-and-comer, went UTSA, now at Oregon, having a lot of success. Hopefully he coordinates Oregon's offense to a national championship. He's got a Heisman finalist each of the last 2 years. These are feathers in his cap that draw a lot of attention from schools across the country. The question he's going to ask himself is which job is the right one for his first head coaching opportunity. Because when you've been a coordinator at a Power 4 level, you can jump off and be a head coach somewhere. Heck, could be at a Power 4 school, could be at a high-level Group of 5 school. But which sort of opportunity is he most dead set on taking, if he is? I presume that he is. I don't know that personally. I haven't talked to the guy before. But guys that fast track to a high-level position like that, like Kenny Dillingham, rarely lack the aspiration to be a head coach. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. Right now, it could be a matter of Stein hasn't seen any jobs that he feels like are a great opportunity for him, or that he would be interested in, or that he and his wife, who have, I think, 2 kids now, would want to go and pursue. That's certainly a consideration, because for a lot of coaches early in their careers, they have to take a particular job and they don't get to care about location because, well, the money is just so much better. Will Stein's family is doing just fine. He's plenty well compensated, so he doesn't have to take that consideration. Heck, depending on which head coaching opportunity he gets, it could be a downgrade in pay. Probably not. Probably not, unless he were to take like a really low-level FBS job or an FCS head coaching job, which I doubt. But again, that's not a consideration he has to make. For him, he has to line up what's the right job. For Tosh Lupoi, I just don't think he wants to be a head coach. I never see his name. He's been in college football for a long time, since 2012. I've never seen his name consistently or seriously pop up on lists for potential coaching vacancies. So, yes, some jobs have opened and been filled, like Purdue with Barry Odom coming from UNLV. The UNLV job gets filled by Dan Mullen, the former Florida head coach. Bill Belichick's at North Carolina. Red flags all over the place for me on that one. So a lot of the jobs have been filled, but not every coaching vacancy that we're aware of is yet even open. Remember, UCLA came open last year late in the cycle because Chip Kelly left. UCLA fans didn't like that very much. Kind of understandable. But you don't know what's going to happen after the season, what Nick Saban left after the season. It's an unpredictable world out there. Corey asks, another perspective on our defensive woes in our inaugural Big Ten championship win. After such a phenomenal performance the previous week where they continually took the Huskies out to the woodshed, recording 10 sacks, etc., this ended up being a trap game for the defense as they put their all into the Husky game. What are your thoughts? I think they were just playing a better offensive line, didn't have a good day, and the scheme did them in. That's the most likely outcome. Yes, for fans, that Washington game was a big emotional investment to go and get a blowout win. And for the players at some extent too, emotional letdowns are the Ohio State game. You got a rushing the field component, top 5 matchup. Like that game had all the hype in the world. This one against Washington was hyped up because it was Dan Lanning has to win, Oregon has to win. That doesn't give you the same feeling at the end of it. And by the way, players could tell you whatever they want in an interview setting. They know. They understand the stake. They hear that sort of stuff. They get asked the questions, and it can stay in their head. It absolutely, they're absolutely aware of that. Like, why did they need to win that game? Because they lost the last 3 by a combined 9 points, 3 points apiece. That's why. Not because Washington is this great team where they need to prove they can play with the best in all of college football. That was Ohio State. That's more of an emotional letdown. So I don't think it was the trap game as much as it was Penn State's offensive line, really good. Like, I went back and watched the game again, or rather watched extended highlights of it again, specifically the Penn State offense. Their offensive line is really good and really well coached, and they played incredibly well. And then scheme-wise, Oregon was just off balance a lot of the game. That's why I don't think there was a trap game component, though I understand where you're coming from.